Hi everyone, welcome to Study Buddy Homeschooling. In today's session, we'll be seeing CBSE Class 10 English, Chapter 10, The Sermon at Benares by Betty Renshaw. So Betty Renshaw, she's an American author. She's written the story, The Sermon at Benares. The sermon refers to any spiritual, religious or any moral talk. So this is about a sermon or a religious moral talk at Benares. Benares is a city in Uttar Pradesh in northern India. Benares is also known as Varanasi. So let's move into the story written by Betty Renshaw. We'll have to remember she is an American author. Now let's go into the story. Gautama Buddha, 563 BC to 483 BC. So it's almost 2585 years ago that Gautama Buddha was born. Gautama Buddha, 563 BC to 483 BC, began life as a prince named Siddhartha Gautama. So Gautama Buddha was a prince. He was also known as Siddhartha Gautama in northern India. At 12, when he was 12 years old, he was sent away for schooling in the Hindu sacred scriptures, and 4 years later he returned home to marry a princess. So when he was 12 years old, he was sent for schooling in Hindu Vedic scriptures, and he stayed there for 4 years to learn about different Hindu Vedic scriptures. That's what all the princes used to do when they were young. They were sent by the kings to Gurukuls, where they are trained and taught by Maharishis. So similarly, even Gautama Buddha, he was sent away when he was 12 years old. He returned after 4 years, which is when he returned back when he was 16 years old. He returned home to marry a princess. So at 16, he was married off. They had a son and lived for 10 years as befitted royalty. So 4 years after schooling, he was back and married immediately. And the next 10 years, what happened was he had a son too. And the next 10 years after his marriage, the whole family was leading a life of a prince or a king. It's a princely life, royal life. They were leading a very royal life, devoid of all the problems. They were happy and leading a very royal life. At about the age of 25, the prince, heretofore shielded from the sufferings of the world, while out hunting, chanced upon a sick man, then an aged man, then a funeral procession, and finally a monk begging for alms. So till the age of 25, he led a very royal, happy life. He didn't know anything about the problems of life. So when he was about 25, what happened is he started to see the sufferings of the world. Till then, he was shielded. Shielded means protected. The whole family, the king was protecting him from knowing the sufferings of the world. He led a very happy, contented life, happy, rich, luxurious life. When he turned 25, he happened to see the sufferings of a sick man, an aged man, then a funeral procession. Funeral procession refers to procession when a dead person is taken to the burial ground either for burying or for burning. So that's known as funeral procession. And finally, a monk begging for alms. And he saw even a monk begging for food or money or whatever. His alms means something that you beg for. Mostly food. That's what the monks do generally. Because they would have let go of all the money that they have and they keep begging for their survival. That's what monks do. These sights so moved him that he at once went out into the world to seek enlightenment concerning the sorrows he had witnessed. So he was so upset when he was 25. He saw the sufferings of people, the sick man, an aged man, and a funeral procession where a dead man was taken for burying or burning. And even he saw sufferings throughout among begging for alms. He just that left him puzzled. He was wondering, why people are suffering. What is the reason for suffering? He wanted to know. He wanted to seek enlightenment. And my enlightenment refers to higher spiritual knowledge. He wanted to seek the truth. He wanted to seek the truth behind why the sufferings, why people are suffering. So he started off. He wandered for 7 years. He went around searching for 7 years, searching the truth. Why people are suffering? Why suffering is happening to people? And finally sat down under a peepal tree where he vowed to stay until enlightenment came. So 7 years he roamed around, and after that he came around and sat under a peepal tree. And he just was trying to know the reason. He was looking for enlightenment. Enlightened after 7 days, he renamed the tree the Bodhi tree, which is the tree of wisdom. So he sat under the Bodhi tree continuously on meditation for about 7 days. After 7 days, what happened is he got the truth. He got enlightened. He got the higher spiritual knowledge, and hence he renamed the tree the Bodhi tree. He renamed the peepal tree as the Bodhi tree, which is the tree of wisdom, and began to teach and to share his new understandings. With 7 days of meditation under a peepal tree made him very enlightened. It opened up his spiritual knowledge. It brought him a spiritual awakening, and he wanted to share it to the people. He got some knowledge during the meditation, and he wanted to share it to people. At that point, he became known as the Buddha, the awakened or the enlightened. So his original name was Gautama Siddhartha Gautama, but he was called as Buddha. Buddha refers to an enlightened one, the awakened one. So after 7 days of meditation, his spiritual knowledge increased, and he wanted to share this knowledge to the people, and hence he was known as the Buddha, which means the awakened or the enlightened. His original name was Gautama Siddhartha. The Buddha preached his first sermon at the city of Benares. So after his enlightenment, the first place where he preached about his sermon, shared his knowledge, had a moral spiritual talk, the enlightened talk he had was at Benares, which is in Uttar Pradesh. Benares is also known as Varanasi, a very sacred site for the Hindu pilgrims. Most holy of the dipping places on the river Ganges. So Benares Benares is located on the river banks of Ganga river, which is also known as the Ganges. So that sermon has been preserved and is given here. So whatever he spoke for the first time, his first enlightened speech at the river banks of Ganga in Benares is being preserved and is given below. It reflects the Buddha's wisdom about one inscrutable kind of suffering. So it reflects about the wisdom that Gautama Buddha had gained about the inscrutable. Inscrutable refers to something that you cannot scrutinize, something that you cannot understand. Okay, it reflects about the understanding, the wisdom of suffering. Let's move into the sermon. Kisa Gautami had an only son and he died. In her grief, she carried the dead child to all her neighbors, asking them for medicine. And the people said she had lost her senses. The boy is dead. So Kisa Gautami is a very young woman who had a son, very young son who had died. So she was very upset in her grief, in her sadness. She carried the dead child. She the boy is dead, but still she carried to all the neighbors asking for medicine. People could not believe it. They thought, this lady must be mad. The boy is dead. How can any medicine help the dead boy? That's what people were talking. She had lost her senses. The boy is dead. They were making, they could not believe what this lady was doing. She kept carrying him, asking for medicine, when everybody knows that the boy is dead and he cannot be brought out. At length, Kisa Gautami met a man who replied to her request. So after a long time, after some time, after speaking to lots of neighbors, she met a man. Kisa Gautami met a man who replied to her, saying that I cannot give the medicine, I cannot give you, the refers to you, I cannot give you medicine for your child, for thy refers to your, but I know a physician who can. He says, I cannot give medicine to your child, but I know a doctor who can. And the girl said, Kisa Gautami, a very young woman, she said, pray tell me, sir, who is it? She's saying, please, I pray, please tell me who is that? A young mother who has lost her son, so she's very anxious to find somebody who can bring her son back to life. And the man replied, go to Sakya Muni, the Buddha. So the Buddha, Gautama Buddha, is also known as Sakya Muni. Siddhartha Gautama, also called as Buddha because he was enlightened one, also called as Sakya Muni. Kisa Gautami repaired to the Buddha and cried. Repaired refers to connecting or went to. So Kisa Gautami repaired to the Buddha and cried, Lord and Master, give me the medicine that will cure my boy. And she says, Buddha, please, you are my God. Please do something that will make my boy okay and he should come to life. The Buddha answered, I want a handful of mustard seed. Buddha says, just get me a handful of mustard seeds. And when the girl in her joy promised to procure it, the Buddha added. So now the girl was happy, the lady was very happy. She thought, if I get mustard seeds, then my boy will come alive. So she was very happy. And immediately Buddha said, the mustard seed must be taken from a house where no one has lost a child, husband, parent, or a friend. So he says, you get mustard seeds, but make sure that you get it from a house where there is no death. There is no death of a child, death of a husband, mother, parent, wife. Nobody from that family should have died. You get mustard seeds from that. Poor Kisa Gautami now went from house to house, and the people pitied her and said, here is mustard seed, take it. But when she asked, did a son or daughter, a father or mother die in your family? They answered, yes. Alas, the living are few, but the dead are many. Do not remind us of our deepest grief. And there was no house but some beloved one who had died in it. Okay, so Kisa Gautami went asking everybody, each and every house, but she could not collect the mustards because somebody in that family had died. The living are few, but the dead are many. Do not remind us of our greatest grief. This is what the people used to say. Somebody would have died from the family, and there was no house, but some beloved one had died in it. Okay, there was no house where loved ones had not died. Kisa Gautami became very and hopeless. She went, very means tired. She was really tired because she kept checking homes and homes and homes. There was no house where their loved ones had not died, and she was hopeless by now, and sat down at the wayside watching the lights of the city as they flickered up and were extinguished again. So she just went asking everybody's home, but nobody said that nobody had been alive in the family for long. Somebody had died. So she was very hopeless, and she sat on the wayside watching the street lights. It just went up, it was just flickering, glowing, and again it was completely gone. The lights were completely gone. At last the darkness of the night reigned everywhere. So it was just darkness. After the lights went off, it was just darkness everywhere. And she considered the fate of men, that their lives flicker up and are extinguished again. So now, sitting in the wayside, she understood the fate of men, women, all the living organisms, that their lives will just flicker up and it will be gone. Extinguished means gone. They will be put off. So our lives are also like that. It just comes, we have a very short life, and after that our life is gone. She understood at that point, and she thought to herself, How selfish am I in my grief? She says, how selfish I am in my sadness. Death is common to all. Only now she's coming to in terms with the loss of her son, the death of her son. Yet, in this valley of desolation, there is a path that leads him to immortality who has surrendered all selfishness. So, uh, how selfish I am. Death is common to all. She says death is common to all. Yet in this valley of desolation refers to a deep sorrow. Yet in this state of deep sorrow, there is a path that leads him to immortality who has surrendered all selfishness. So he says somebody who has surrendered all his selfishness will become immortal, that they will be deathless, but they have to be selfless. This is a very important two lines. It shows about the spiritual path of life. Yet in this valley of desolation, there is a path that leads him to immortality who has surrendered all selfishness. So it says immortality refers to living continuously. Mortal means dying. So immortality means living always. So humans, it is not possible to be immortal until and unless we reach a spiritual stage. There are rishis, yogis who are immortal because they are not selfish. So this says humans who are selfish, who are greedy, they can never be immortal. All of these people who are having all these qualities like greed, selfishness, they are all going to be mortals one day. That's why only few people who are really enlightened, like Gautama Buddha, rishis, Paramahamsa Yogananda, Swami Vivekananda, they are all called Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. They are all immortals because they have they have attained the highest spiritual knowledge, and hence they are called as immortal, and their soul is still in the universe. But ordinary human beings, if we have to be immortal, we have to put in a lot of effort in the spiritual path. We have to be selfless. We have to be having all good qualities. We should not have any emotional reactions. Even for goodness, for the sad things, we should all be balanced. Only then we'll be able to be immortal. Buddha said, the life of mortals in this world is troubled and brief and combined with pain. This is again a very important statement. So he says the life of mortals. Mortals refers to the human beings, other things who are selfish, who are greedy, who have all the common needs. It'll always be troubled and brief, and it's very short. Brief refers to short and combined with pain. For there is not any means by which those that have been born can avoid dying. So those mortals, those people, common people who are not spiritually enlightened, they are definitely cannot avoid death. That's what he says. After reaching old age, there is death. It's for the mortals, the common people. Of such a nature are living beings. So living beings are meant to die. Only if they are not spiritually enlightened, they are definitely meant to die. As ripe fruits are early in danger of falling. So mortals when born are always in the danger of death. So we common people, human beings, are born to die. As all earthen vessels made by the potter end in being broken, so it is a life of mortals. So earthen vessels, pots will be somehow, how much ever you preserve it, keep it safe, one day it's going to break. Similarly, how much ever you take care of your body, health conscious, someday you're going to die. So that's what he says. Both young and adult, both those who are fools and those who are wise, all fall into the power of death. All are subject to death. He says, no matter what, whether you're rich, poor, wiser, fool, it doesn't matter. Everybody will die. All mortals will die. So it's only very, very few people who would turn out to be immortals. And that's very rare. Of course, who overcome by death, depart from life. A father cannot save his son, nor kinsmen their relations. So, nobody can save anybody from death. Be it a father, he cannot save his son, nor anybody, the relations, nobody can save anybody. Mark. Mark here refers to look in or note. While relatives are looking on and lamenting deeply, one by one mortals are carried off like an ox that is led to the slaughter. So no matter how much relatives cry, make a big fuss about the death, no matter how much our pain they go through, no matter how much ever grieving they are, one by one people are going to die like an ox that is led to slaughterhouse. So it's going to definitely die. An ox which is going to the slaughterhouse, it's definitely going to die. Likewise, people are going to be dying off. So the world is afflicted with death and decay. So he says, world is afflicted, is just with death and decay. There will be death and decay. Therefore, the wise do not grieve. So the wise people do not feel sad. They do not be sad about it, knowing the terms of the world. So the wise people, they know the truth behind the world. They know the nature of the world, that nobody is going to be permanent in this world. It's like a flickering light. Our life is for a very short time, after which the light will go off. So the wise men know this, so they do not show any emotional reaction to death. Not from weeping nor from grieving will anyone obtain peace of mind. He says, by weeping and grieving, being sad, you will never have peace of mind. On the contrary, his pain will be greater and his body will be suffer. He'll make himself sick and pale. So by crying and being sad, you're not going to get peace of mind. On the other hand, it's the person's body will suffer, his mental state will be not good, and the person will become sick and pale. It refers to the person who has lost some relative to death. Yet the dead are not saved by his lamentation. So no matter what you're going to do, you're going to be sad, sorrow, you grieve, you cry, you weep. No matter what you do, they are not going to be saved. They are not going to come back. So why are you going to grieve? Why are you going to weep when you know they are not going to come back? On the other hand, on the contrary, your body is going to suffer. Your mental peace will be gone. That's what he says. He who seeks peace should draw out the arrow of lamentation and complaint and grief. He says, if you want to have peace, take the arrow from your body, arrow of lamentation, complaint, sorrow, grief about death. If somebody in your family had died, just take that grief out, take that arrow out, arrow of lamentation, complaint and sadness out. Only then you will be at peace. He who has drawn out the arrow and has become composed will obtain peace of mind. So if you take that arrow out, arrow of sadness, arrow of complaint, arrow of grief from yourself, only then the person will be able to have peace of mind. Because no matter what, the dead person is not going to come. So what is the point of being sorrowful or grieving or weeping when you know that the person is not going to come back? That's the nature of life. That's the nature of the world. So that's why wise men don't grieve or be sad. He who has overcome all sorrow will become free from sorrow and will be blessed. Now Buddha ends. He who has overcome all sorrow, who has understood the reality of life, he who is like the wise, he who has understood that death is natural, which everybody will get it. So you'll have to, if you accept that and come out of that, overcome that sorrow, then you will be free from sorrow and you will be blessed and will have peace of mind. So thanks for watching. I'll make another video about the question and answers given in this lesson. Thanks for watching and please do subscribe to our channel. Thank you.